Hi, hope you're doing very well. And in this talk, I plan to focus on the sonnet, on my experience with writing sonnets. Not so much to have a perfect looking finished sonnet, but as a way to open up to inspiration, to music, to images, and to other wonderful things that poetry's given me. And in the last talk, I talked about trying different styles of poetry in the fall of 2002, and the sonnet really was the main thing that came out of that for me, I believe. Maybe partly because around that time I heard Rodney Jones say that he had been working in sonnets, and it hit me. Of all of his books that I've read, I don't remember seeing a sonnet in there anywhere, and I realized that he was using them as a way to generate poetry without trying to, make the perfect looking poem that had 14 lines and these other things that a sonnet can have. And so trying writing in 14 lines with a rhyme scheme became a wonderful resource for me. It really was incredible. I found that if I kind of treated them like paragraphs, that really I could go on and on writing. All these things could come out that I didn't know I had inside. And at the same time, it was very different from a paragraph, because I found that focusing on the rhyme, and I don't remember if I was doing 10-syllable lines, which a sonnet traditionally has at that time, but trying to write in this form, it really seemed to bring up stories, imagination, dreams, memories, all of these things together in this space that I found magical and musical. And 20 years later, I still find sonnets very helpful to write in. And I believe I've gotten a little bit of help with that by memorizing a couple, maybe a few. Maybe not perfectly, but I can't remember which number the sonnet, Shakespeare sonnet, this is. But it might be 44. I don't know. Not a big deal. There's a Shakespeare sonnet that I've found really helpful to kind of try to have by heart. It sort of found me. Just kind of came and stuck. So here it is, the best I can remember it. Like as the waves make toward the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end, each changing place with that which came before. In sequent toil all forwards do contend. Nativity, once in the main of light, crawls to maturity, therewith being crowned. Crooked eclipses against his glory fight, and time that gave doth now his gift confound. Time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. Something in times to hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth despite time's cruel hand. Something might be but low, or something like that. And I believe that sonnet's been helpful for me to memorize, at least partly because of the sounds in it. there's kind of a raw power that I find in like as the waves make toward the pebbled shore. Um, there are hard sounds in it. There's the R sound, which for me is such a lyrically wonderful sound. And so that's been a helpful one for me to have in mind or heart or both. And then also a Keats sonnet, When I Have Fears, that I will try to recite also. When I have fears that I may cease to be, before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before high-piled books and charactery hold like rich garners the full ripened grain, when I behold upon the night's starred face huge cloudy symbols of a high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance, and when I fear, fair creature of an hour, that I may never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink. And man, the sound of that, I mean, it really just blows me away. Shakespeare blows me away in more like an earthquake, and Keats is more like a fireworks display. For me. And once again, memorizing those, thankfully, I don't have a sense of having to write a perfect sonnet. And I've felt burdened by that from time to time, but it seems more like they help me just sort of internalize the form as something that can help bring the words out of me musically and intuitively, maybe. So I've found it really helpful to try writing sonnets without trying to make finished sonnets. Just letting anything that helps me about the form bring the language out of me. And then I've also found it helpful to try writing some sonnets that have stuck more or less closely to the form that I've tried to finish. And one way that I've gotten to do that I found fun was by writing sonnets that have a couple of different speakers. I love persona poetry. It's been a favorite way for me to write poetry, and I really enjoyed trying writing sonnets where there were a couple of different characters talking back and forth. And I found what that did was to really bring out one of the attributes of the sonnet, which is, I believe, to kind of combine two different things and see how they work out together. Maybe not many sonnets do that, but like Shakespeare has the waves and time. I find in that sonnet I got to recite of his, and Keats has maybe another nature scene and kind of reflecting on how things pass. And another thing that I really found helpful was combining the sonnet with another genre or type of poem. I really enjoyed trying writing sonnet elegies. Poems about people who had passed on. Not in a morbid way, and a lot of them are about different historical figures or just whoever kind of caught my imagination. But it was really neat to try to kind of bring together that 14-line form and this other kind of poem and just see how they merged. And it seems like I remember somebody referring to the sonnet as a moment's monument. And for me, it might be that. It kind of captures a moment, but I can add a lot to it or talk about a lot of other things at the same time. I've also found a real richness in it, partly because it's such an old form in English poetry, and so many poets have written in it. From, I guess, starting with Sir Thomas Wyatt, maybe, translated Petrarch, and then, of course, Shakespeare and many others, up until lots of people currently, I believe. So there's this wonderful, in a sense, of stepping into a community of poets by trying writing this way. And again, there's not a sense of pressure to compete or perform or perfect. It's more, come in and talk, come in and play. You don't have to be perfect. Just try letting the words come into this form and let's see what happens. Thank you.